Hey folks, Amanda be reckoned with, your regular narrator, is out for the day. My name is Don Tread on Me, but you can call me Don. Rhymes with Ron, and I'll be narrating today. I'm here with, for Pete's sake, a World War II Army veteran. Originally an immigrant, he was on the boat with his mother and family when they came through Ellis Island and saw the Statue of Liberty in the 1920s. I wish I could have met you on that boat. Stand your ground, Army paratrooper, always had his feet in the air, liked hanging out in trees. Gus T. Opinion, a former Air Force veteran, as vocal as the jets he flew. Juste because, though not military, he had a hunger for flying, as evidenced by the DC-3s and Cessnas, and an entrepreneurial streak too. Mark my words, a character who brings sharp analytical skills, much like a former intelligence analyst, to identify threats and opportunities. He's also a writer, and when it comes to words and BS, he can hone in and smell them out. Chip Nearshoulders, the pissed-off forgotten brother of the famous brother, and Stanford grad Head and Shoulders, the brother who had hair. Russ T. Chassis, a Navy man and former shipmate on the USS Missouri, BB-63, that holds a prominent place in naval lore. It is often cited as the most celebrated battleship in American history. This Iowa-class vessel is most famously remembered as the solemn venue in Tokyo Bay, where the formal documents ending World War II were signed. Its notable service record extends beyond this historic event, encompassing deployments during the Korean War and, much later, Operation Desert Storm. Ol' Russ was looking into the night sky one night and hit with inspiration after reading a Bible story in Proverbs. Something about wisdom and understanding, I believe, wrote the following words. Of spices and resin, earthy and sweet, let wisdom's subtle insights guide me, as stars guide sailors and sailors their fleet. The imagery of wisdom's subtle guidance is interwoven with the natural navigation of stars, sailors, and their fleet. It seems profound, though we still haven't figured out what it means. Anyways, we're mostly truckers and ex-military, though not all, and like several peas in a pod, some might even be figments of my imagination. We're dedicated constitutionalists, all nearing 60, and pretty much the same guy. Rather like Sybil, struggling for integration, with something like 16 personalities. Interesting book. So, they'll be keeping me company, and I'll be keeping you company. Today's journey is an opinion-based discussion of our alma mater, the one we all swore an oath to, as did everyone in the military, our cherished United States Constitution. This will be a two-part series, so be sure to find them both. Like and subscribe and leave your own comments. Discussion is fully encouraged. After all, it's our First Amendment right. We're hauling more than dirt. Today's delivery is a road-tested view on ICE detention realities that strike at the heart of our freedoms. Committed to constitutional principles, guided by merit as in a meritocracy rather than party lines, I voted for both President Trump as well as former President Obama in a prior election. I even rallied folks in Oklahoma for Obama, which is a very red state, because I believed he was the man for the job at that time. I've seen this country from different states and perspectives, and what is unfolding with ICE detentions betrays what veterans fought for. Once we lose the Constitution, we lose our country, risking a police state or worse, and it's dead ahead. Consider Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia. Or anyone facing deportation to a place like CCOT in El Salvador or Libya or any other third-party country from which they didn't originate, including countries where conflict rages, referring to Libya. Human rights abuses like torture and violence are rampant there, and no support exists. Fleeing cartels or danger with hope for a better life, these individuals arrive with nothing, only to risk family separations or be dumped without papers, passports, or money into a war-torn land or third country, where predation, murder, or starvation loom as a near-certain fate. The Trump administration's defiance of court rulings and Libya's rejection heightens this travesty, turning a policy into heartless cruelty. Ask yourself, do people seeking safety deserve to lose everything? Their children, their lives? To such horrific uncertainty? The real-world stakes demand we see the human cost beyond borders. For those leaving sickening comments on YouTube using the term anchor babies. You were all anchor babies. Your parents, grandparents, or great-grandparents were immigrants, and honestly, I wish they were alive to feel the shame of your ignorant words. And for that matter, wanting a better life for your children than you've had is not a crime. Anchor babies, stupidity churned out by a political rhetoric machine. Use your head. Think for yourself. In the military, you don't ask, are you Republican or Democrat? If white, Mexican, or black, you defend each other. No one is left behind. Yet how are they deporting veterans? I was in the Marines, and although I was raised by my stepfather, who I love and respect immensely, my father by blood and by name was in Vietnam, and my grandfather, who I was very close to, and from whom I received my Maltese heritage, was in World War II. This is not what anybody fought for, a government turning on its own citizens. We're rapidly devolving, potentially into a police state, authoritarianism dead ahead, or perhaps even totalitarianism. It seems that not one of you has the sense to see it. This is how holocausts happen, fueled by the justification of present realities through severely skewed media stories, the product of an imbalanced propaganda machine. From my perspective, the media endeavors not just to inform, but to actively craft public opinion, directing discourse, manipulating perception, and influencing belief, thereby circumventing the public's right to independent judgment. People are dying as a result of these raids, and while in ICE custody, and, well, life goes on. Until it happens to you. You say this is what people voted for. I say emphatically, it's not. People voted for the removal of criminals, gang members, and cartel members. Not everyone seeking refuge from corrupt governments, cartel threats, and forced abortions poses a danger to this country. In fact, quite the opposite. Extremely few do. These are often individuals whose lives are in peril, who have contributed to the U.S. economy, paid taxes, and have no criminal records, just minor offenses like traffic tickets, or the so-called crime of simply being here. Far from threatening our nation, they weave into the tapestry that is America, a vibrant blend of diverse backgrounds that enriches our society. Through their hard work and eagerness to embrace opportunities, they will often do the very jobs that most here don't even want. Don't take my word for it. Imagine spending your day harvesting strawberries in sprawling fields, your back aching as you stoop low for hours, hands stained with juice and soil, while the relentless sun warms your skin to a sweat-soaked sheen. Picture the quiet determination in their eyes, the camaraderie among workers sharing water breaks, and the weight of knowing this labor feeds families across the nation. Jobs that demand resilience and grit, yet are overlooked by many. They enhance our cultural complexity by filling essential jobs in agriculture and healthcare, launching small businesses that boost local economies, sharing unique traditions that strengthen community bonds, and driving innovation with their skills and perspectives, truly making our country stronger and more dynamic. These contributions transform the U.S. into a living mosaic, where hard work and opportunity turn adversity into a source of strength. They don't just adapt, they enhance, making our society more beautiful and interconnected with every story, with every dish, and with every song they share. The weaponization of immigration. The very notion of being illegally present is, for many, a status largely manufactured by a stroke of a pen, changing administrative rules into perceived criminal acts. The entire history of the United States, from its inception, has been defined by waves of immigration, a propensity now conveniently weaponized. This shift is particularly alarming as individuals with no criminal history or background are increasingly caught in nets for deportation. A substantial number of people who have peacefully lived here for anywhere from 10 to 50 years are suddenly being turned into hunted animals and criminals overnight. This transformation of peaceful residents into targets, solely due to policy changes, raises fundamental questions. Where is this going? This doesn't appear to be a one-off situation, but rather the first chess move of a much larger game. Once the number of immigrants, both legal and undocumented, decreases, who will be targeted next? And how will that scenario be justified? They're playing you, and you don't see it. What is the overall game plan and what exactly are they trying to accomplish? Is it to create a system of detention centers so the entire US population can eventually be subjugated and monetized? Where exactly is all of this ultimately heading? This trend, if unchecked, suggests a future where the criteria for who is deemed undesirable or illegal could expand far beyond current immigration status. This immigration mess the US is wrestling with today is, in large part, a creation of its own making. During the Biden administration, the borders were flung open, allowing people to enter without proper vetting. With no background checks, we welcomed not just many good individuals, but also a notable number from struggling backgrounds, some of whom brought criminal tendencies that likely predated their arrival, echoing patterns set by the prior Trump administration's policies, which laid the groundwork with measures like Remain in Mexico and tightened asylum rules that later unraveled. Now, the current administration under Trump is swinging the pendulum hard the other way, resorting to extreme and often cruel tactics to address the influx, from mass deportations to militarized enforcement. This flip-flopping stems from a government lacking clear vision, and it's a tragedy when such policies shatter real human lives. So what's the purpose of government? At its core, it should protect and defend citizens from external threats, like invasions, while ensuring safety, liberty, and justice for all. The original intent, as envisioned by the 1700s founders, was to create a structure that balanced power, preventing any single entity from overreaching. The governmental framework they designed, rooted in the Constitution, aimed to serve the people, not dominate them, with checks and balances to safeguard individual rights and local autonomy. Here's where federal versus state rights come into play. The founders granted the federal government authority over national issues like immigration, seeing it as a matter of sovereignty, but they also reserved significant powers for states under the 10th Amendment, reflecting a distrust of centralized control, which is exactly what we see going on now, and exactly what is taking place under this current administration. They feared an empowered federal government could morph into a tyrant, much like the British Crown they rebelled against, trampling individual lives and state sovereignty. The current clash, federal agents in California against Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass's wishes, mirrors this fear, with federal overreach disrupting local governance and human livelihoods, a stark departure from the founders' vision of a government that protects to one that has resorted to extreme and often cruel tactics and federal overreach. These statements are opinions, reflecting perceived policy shifts, such as mass deportations, harsh rhetoric, militarized enforcement, and historical context including Biden's border policies and Trump's prior Remain in Mexico program. Let's explore state sovereignty issues, particularly in the context of concerns about federal overreach and the current immigration enforcement tensions in California. State sovereignty refers to the authority of individual states to govern themselves within the framework of the U.S. Constitution, a principle rooted in the founders' design to balance power between federal and state governments. What is state sovereignty? State sovereignty stems from the 10th Amendment, which reserves to the states or the people powers not delegated to the federal government. The founders, wary of a centralized tyranny like the British Crown, envisioned a federal system where states handle local matters such as education, law enforcement, while the federal government manages national concerns such as immigration, defense, full stop. This division was meant to protect individual liberties and prevent any one entity from dominating. Current state sovereignty issues. The clash between federal immigration enforcement and California's stance exemplifies this tension. Federal agents in California. With federal ICE agents operating in California against the wishes of Governor Gavin Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, state sovereignty is under strain. California has pushed back with sanctuary state laws, SB 54, 2017, limiting local cooperation with federal immigration actions, reflecting a desire to prioritize state values and protect residents. Immigration policy conflict. The Trump administration's aggressive deportation policies, backed by the One Big Beautiful Bill, H.R. 1, signed July 4, 2025, assert federal authority over borders, clashing with California's more lenient approach to undocumented immigrants. This federal push, including agents overriding local objections, mirrors the founders' fear of an overpowered central government. Legal battles, the 20 state lawsuits against ICE data misuse, and the June 7, 2025, Los Angeles raid detaining 50 Americans highlight state resistance. California's leaders argue federal actions disrupt local governance and human lives, invoking state rights to challenge federal mandates. Historical context and founders' fears. The founders, signing the Constitution in 1787, were split on federal power. Anti-federalists like Patrick Henry warned that a strong federal government could encroach on states, leading to oppression, exactly what you see with federal agents ignoring state officials. The Federalist Papers, number 45 by Madison, promise state retention of primary authority, yet the Supremacy Clause, Article 6, gives federal law precedence, creating a tension that's flared today. They feared a federal overreach could trample individual rights, as seen in warrantless detentions, echoing their revolutionary fight against unchecked rule. Federal versus state rights in practice. Federal authority. The Constitution grants the federal government control over immigration, Article 1, Section 8, justifying ICE's presence. Recent funding, $170 billion through 2029, amplifies this power, overriding state preferences. State rights? States retain police powers to protect public health, safety, and welfare. California's sanctuary laws and Newsom's opposition assert this, but federal preemption often prevails, as in Arizona versus United States 2012, which limited state immigration enforcement. This imbalance allows federal agents to act unilaterally, disrupting California's policies and livelihoods, like those of long-term tenants, fueling concerns about a police state. Implications for all of us. As residents of California, this sovereignty battle affects our daily lives. Federal enforcement could impact immigrant coworkers or tenants like ourselves, while state resistance seeks to shield them. The founders' vision of a government protecting, not destroying, is tested when federal agents override local will, potentially leading to the authoritarian drift I see. Our rights as citizens and tenants hinge on this balance, making state sovereignty a critical fight to watch. In short, the current federal push in California highlights a sovereignty crisis the founders dreaded, where federal overreach threatens state autonomy and individual lives, demanding vigilance to restore that original balance. GEO Group, Core Civic, Management and Training Corporation, including LaSalle Corrections and others. The major players in private detention centers alongside GEO Group, Core Civic and Management and Training Corporation, MTC, include LaSalle Corrections. These companies are key operators of immigration detention and correctional facilities in the U.S., often under contracts with federal agencies like ICE. While GEO and Core Civic dominate with extensive networks, such as GEO's 79,000 beds, Core Civic's 76,000, MTC manages around 20,000 beds across facilities like the Central Arizona Detention Center, and LaSalle operates smaller but notable centers, such as the South Louisiana ICE Processing Center. The industry's growth, especially under current deportation policies, suggests other minor players may emerge, but these four are the most prominent based on operational scale and contract volume. Let's dive into the murky world of private detention centers like GEO Group and Core Civic, examining their philosophy, purpose, and the troubling expansion of their operations, despite widespread human rights concerns. These companies, operating under the guise of public service, present a facade that deserves critical scrutiny. Philosophy and purpose. GEO Group and Core Civic market themselves as partners in justice, claiming to enhance public safety and rehabilitation through cost-effective detention and reentry services. GEO touts its GEO Continuum of Care, emphasizing evidence-based programs to reduce recidivism, while Core Civic frames its mission as bettering the public good with high-quality corrections management. Both assert they fill a governmental need by building and operating facilities, leveraging decades of experience to support federal agencies like ICE. Yet this narrative crumbles under scrutiny. Their core philosophy seems less about rehabilitation and more about profit maximization, rooted in a business model that thrives on incarceration volume rather than societal benefit. The push for efficiency often translates to cutting corners, as seen in chronic understaffing and neglect, suggesting a purpose aligned with shareholder value over human welfare. Expansion despite human rights violations. Remarkably, these companies expand their operations in plain sight, with new facilities like GEO's Delaney Hall in Newark, New Jersey, and CoreCivic's reopened Dilley, Texas Center, despite a litany of abuses, sexual and physical violence, forced labor, medical neglect, and deaths in custody. Reports from groups like the ACLU and RFK Human Rights highlight systemic failures, yet the Trump administration's deportation push, fueled by the One Big Beautiful Bill, H.R. 1, July 4, 2025, has spurred contracts worth billions, including ICE's $45 billion proposal. This openness might reflect confidence in political support or a calculated bet that public outrage won't materialize or outweigh economic incentives. The lack of accountability, exacerbated by waived ICE standards and minimal oversight, allows violations to persist, raising questions about complicity or indifference at higher levels. Beneficiaries and government gains. The primary beneficiaries are the companies themselves. GEO and CoreCivic have seen stock surges, 74% and 55% post-2024 election, and revenue spikes, GEO's $2.41 billion and CoreCivic's $1.9 billion in 2023, driven by ICE contracts, 43% and 30% of revenue, respectively. Their transportation subsidiaries also profit from deportation logistics. The government benefits through outsourcing, avoiding the cost of building public facilities or hiring staff, with contracts like GEO's $60 million Newark deal and CoreCivic's $180 million Dilley Pact shifting financial burdens to private entities. Taxpayers fund this via DHS allocations, $3.4 billion in 2023, while companies enjoy tax advantages as former REITs, reducing rates to 3%. Direct beneficiaries within government. Pinpointing individuals is tricky, but patterns emerge. Political donations, GEO and CoreCivic gave $500,000 each to Trump's 2025 inaugural committee, double their 2017 contributions, suggest influence peddling. Lobbying expenditures, $1.38 million for GEO, $1.77 million for CoreCivic in 2024, target DHS budgets, hinting at lawmakers or appointees benefiting through campaign funds or future private sector roles. Obscure contract agreements like no-bid deals, such as CoreCivic's $1 billion 2016 contract, and potential payoffs, though unproven, could involve officials steering contracts for personal gain. The revolving door of ex-officials joining these firms, such as Tom Homan as border czar with past GEO ties, fuels speculation of insider benefits, though direct evidence of payoffs remains elusive. Future trajectory and action. Once the current immigrant detention pool is exhausted, the model could expand to other groups, petty offenders, parolees, or dissidents, given their pivot to e-carceration and re-entry services. This runaway train risk mirrors the post-Civil War private prison boom, now turbocharged by political will. To tackle this, identify key players, corporate executives, lobbying firms, and receptive politicians, using public financial disclosures and litigation records. Meet them at the crossroads by amplifying grassroots pressure such as Denver's $10.6 million contract rejection and pushing for divestment such as CalPERS, CalSTARS exits. Slowing this requires exposing profit-driven motives and demanding transparent, humane alternatives, lest we slide into a broader surveillance state. What is e-carceration? E-carceration refers to the use of electronic monitoring and digital surveillance technologies to restrict and control individuals outside traditional prison walls, effectively extending incarceration into their daily lives. This includes devices like ankle monitors, GPS trackers, and smartphone apps that enforce curfews, track movements, and impose behavioral conditions. The term, short for electronic incarceration, highlights a shift from physical detention to a more pervasive, tech-driven form of confinement. Private prison companies like GEO Group and CoreCivic are pivoting to e-carceration as part of their re-entry services, targeting groups beyond immigrants, such as petty offenders, parolees, or dissidents, once the current immigrant detention pool diminishes. This expansion leverages devices like BI Incorporated's, a GEO subsidiary, ankle monitors, which generated $181 million in 2023 revenue, to monitor over 200,000 individuals annually. The model mirrors the post-Civil War private prison boom by capitalizing on mass supervision, now amplified by political will under policies like the Trump administration's deportation and crime crackdowns. This suggests a future where e-carceration could normalize surveillance, potentially ensnaring broader populations under the guise of rehabilitation or public safety. Project 2025? A policy blueprint. Project 2025 is a detailed policy initiative developed by the Heritage Foundation, a well-known conservative think tank, in collaboration with over 100 conservative organizations. Released in April 2023, it serves as a 900-page mandate for leadership to guide a potential conservative administration, with a focus on preparing for a transition starting January 20th, 2025. The plan outlines and purports to four main goals: restoring the family as the centerpiece of American life, dismantling parts of the administrative state, defending national sovereignty and borders, and securing individual rights. It includes recommendations such as reducing federal bureaucracy, expanding presidential authority, and proposing policies like mass deportation of undocumented immigrants, stricter immigration enforcement, and changes to tax and healthcare systems. The initiative also involves creating a database of vetted conservative personnel for government roles and a playbook for the first 180 days of a new administration. More information is available at www.project2025.org or www.heritage.org. Palantir, Data Analytics in Practice. Palantir Technologies, founded in 2003, is a company that develops software to integrate and analyze large datasets for clients, including government agencies and private organizations. Its platforms, such as Gotham and Foundry, are used for purposes like national security, law enforcement, and business optimization. The company processes personal information, such as names, addresses, financial records, or biometric data provided by clients from existing databases, although it does not collect this data directly. This processing supports client missions, such as immigration enforcement or counterterrorism, with measures like access controls in place to manage data. The scope of its work has raised discussions about privacy and surveillance, particularly in contexts like ICE contracts. Closing statement. Folks, we've peeled back the layers of this immigration crisis and the dark machinery driving it. Private detention giants like GEO Group, CoreCivic, MTC, and LaSalle, a government swinging between extremes, and a sovereignty battle threatening our very freedoms. This isn't just about borders, it's about a system that's lost its way, turning human lives into pawns for profit and power. The founders dreamed of a government that protects, not preys. Yet here we are, watching federal overreach and corporate greed erode that vision. We can't sit idle as this runaway train heads toward a future where anyone could be labeled undesirable. It's time to wake up, dig into the truth, and stand together, demand accountability, support state rights, and push for a return to justice. Some lawmakers and insiders are even benefiting from stock investments as those individual stocks surge, adding fuel to this fire. We need to meet this challenge and continue pushing for what is right. What we're witnessing isn't just a policy misstep, it's an administrative facade masking deeper wrongs. The system we've explored, with its federal overreach, private detention profits, and erosion of state sovereignty, has morphed into something far beyond immigration enforcement. Individuals, many with decades of peaceful residency, are being kidnapped, unlawfully detained, and denied due process or access to attorneys, all within a parallel system operating outside the Constitution, often without warrants. Shockingly, this includes American citizens caught in the criminal net. This isn't a criminal act by the individuals, but a deliberate administrative choice, amplifying the tragedy of a government and its corporate partners preying on human lives for gain. By masked, unidentified agents, taken to detainment centers and held indefinitely. The government profits from this with private prison companies like GEO Group, CoreCivic, LaSalle Corrections, Management and Training Corporation, MTC, and deployed resources, making billions of dollars, repurposing tent facilities for ICE holds, plus state and county facilities by way of the 287G program. Beyond simply reducing government infrastructure, the outsourcing of detention has established a perverse financial pipeline. Billions in federal reimbursements and incentives flow to local governments, a system explicitly designed since 2009 to incentivize over-detention. Private prison contracts and local agreements, complete with so-called bed mandates documented by the ACLU and GAO, prioritize filling beds to maximize revenue, turning human lives into a commodity for profit. The alliance that's been shaking things up behind the scenes, the teamwork between the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, and the Government Accountability Office, GAO, these two powerhouses have teamed up multiple times to tackle issues like government overreach, data tracking, and the safeguarding of our basic freedoms. The GAO digs into government operations and lays out the facts, while the ACLU takes those findings and pushes hard for laws and policies that protect our rights. Let's break it down. Spying on data. The ACLU has zeroed in on GAO reports that uncover possible government programs snooping on our personal data, sparking big worries about privacy and our individual liberties. Secure flight concerns. The ACLU has flagged GAO discoveries about the Secure Flight Program, pointing out shaky watchlist accuracy, risks of identity theft, and weak privacy shields. Border Patrol handling. The ACLU shouted out a GAO report that exposed uneven treatment of migrants' possessions by Border Patrol, and they gave a nod to a fresh directive aimed at fixing those problems. 287G program flaws. The ACLU has leaned on GAO critiques that slam the unchecked growth of the 287G program, warning about insufficient protections against misuse. Tech and privacy risks. The GAO has put out studies on how new tech is shaping law enforcement, flagging privacy and liberty concerns, issues the ACLU has seized on to demand smarter policies. Team effort. Together, the ACLU and GAO have joined forces on key battles, with the ACLU giving props to the GAO for shining a light on troubling government actions and fueling their advocacy push. This partnership is a big deal, folks. It's about keeping an eye on the powers that be and making sure our rights don't get trampled. This insidious cash flow, evidenced by GEO's $70 million investment and Core Civic's $67 million Virginia project, feigns job creation while brazenly prioritizing profit over humane conditions, fueling a grim reality of reported medical neglect and systemic abuse. What's worse, our own tax dollars fund this apparatus, potentially paving the way for our own incarceration without due process, rubber-stamped into existence by the One Big Beautiful Bill, a legislative betrayal that simultaneously stripped health coverage from millions while carving out egregious tax breaks for billionaires. This is demonstrably not what we voted for. And the most glaring betrayal? When ICE facilities brazenly deny entry to Congress, outright blocking constitutional authority and subverting the very oversight essential to a free people. Think about the audacity, a funded force, operating beyond public view, with the power to deny our elected representatives the right to witness its operations. This is a chilling erosion of the very fabric of our republic. I am just a trucker who enlisted in our military after witnessing something at 17 years old that changed my life forever. It was the images on TV from the Beirut bombing, seeing the faces of young Marines who survived, yet surrounded by the wreckage and destruction caused by those powerful explosions. It was devastating, and I can honestly say that it impacted me hard. It drove me to make a decision against my mom's wishes. She wanted me to go to college, but in the end, she signed for me since I was still underage. I went in on the delayed entry program so I could finish school. Right after high school graduation, I headed straight to boot camp. That event shaped my path and is a big part of why I chose to serve. I remember watching TV and I realized that they were me, not much older than I was at all. I was struck hard by that realization. That was why I chose the Marines. On October 23, 1983, during the chaos of the Lebanese Civil War, a tragic attack shook the world. 2 trucks loaded with explosives, driven by suicide bombers, struck the barracks in Beirut, Lebanon, where American and French troops were stationed. The blast claimed the lives of 241 U.S. Marines, leaving a lasting scar on those who witnessed its aftermath. I'll always be proud to have worn our Marine Corps uniform. Influenced significantly by my grandfather, a veteran of World War II, I believe losing the Constitution loses our country. Let's talk about it. Subscribe, share your thoughts. This video constitutes my opinion. A trucker's take on the current state of justice, governmental overreach, and constitutional erosion in America. This video is written by me and is protected by the First Amendment under freedom of speech. We are seeing warrantless mass detentions by masked, unidentified ICE agents, encircling individuals, forcefully throwing them to the ground, and many times delivering merciless beatings. They then fabricate charges after the fact to excuse their brutal actions, and with video footage uploaded to YouTube, clearly contradicting their version of events. Consider, if you will, the vast number of incidents that weren't being recorded, in the moment, and uploaded to YouTube. What you see in a video is but a fraction of a small percent of the actual number of events that are occurring in reality. On that note, this conduct is currently being normalized, is being done openly, and is creating a climate of fear, bordering on terror. It openly violates the Fourth Amendment's requirement for warrants based on probable cause. This behavior has no place whatsoever in our society. None. These operations, targeting citizens, bypass due process with indefinite detention in GEO group and core civic facilities, incentivized in a for-profit scenario to keep beds filled, and in which human beings become nothing more than commodities for government profit. Legally, this breaches multiple amendments. The First Amendment, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances, is violated when ICE detentions suppress protest or deny congressional oversight, stifling my right to report what I see and the public's expression and petition rights. The Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, falters as a free state weakens with citizens detained without cause risking our defense rights. The Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures, shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, is trampled by warrantless grabs turning streets into search zones as you've witnessed and breaching unreasonable seizure with excessive force. The Fifth Amendment, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, is mocked by holding people without hearing, seizing belongings without compensation, and denying fair treatment, as seen in cases like the 4'11" Mexican-American U.S. citizen that was picked up off her feet and hauled away. The Sixth Amendment, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial, is ignored when detainees get no trial or lawyer, unlike a soldier's rights, which my enlisted time contributed to preserving. The Seventh Amendment, in suits at common law, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, slips away with no jury for related disputes buried in bureaucracy. The Eighth Amendment, excessive bail shall not be required, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted, shines in neglectful camps where medical neglect and abuse prevail. The Ninth Amendment, the enumeration of certain rights shall not deny or disparage others retained by the people, loses ground as family rights vanish in deportations. The Tenth Amendment, the powers not delegated to the United States are reserved to the states or to the people, is sidestepped as federal power overrides local control. The 13th Amendment, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist, is breached by unpaid $1 a day labor without conviction echoing servitude. The 14th Amendment, no state shall deprive any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws, is violated by targeting groups unequally denying due process. Imagine a veteran being denied fair treatment. It's already happened to multiple veterans, and the count is growing. This mishandling builds a system where rights are tools for profit, steering us toward a police state, clearly outside the Constitution. The section right after this one gives contact information for California's elected representatives. We need to contact them and we need to push them. What's going on in this country is not okay. And if you do, be respectful and be nice. Not all of them like what they see going on either. About this video, I used Google for research and to verify information. I used AI tools like Grok and Gemini for research, and with Grok adding suggested searches, a number of which I did search, incorporating this additional and relevant information into the body of my script. I also sought AI input on particular wording to ensure my place well within the First Amendment's safety and protections, sometimes adopting different wording than what I'd written. The ideas, questions, research, inspiration, direction, intent, and initial script are 100% mine. However, this final version included appreciable assistance. As such, it isn't fully original. Credit to Google, Gemini, and Grok, and especially to Grok's suggestions to further improve the script, making it more comprehensive. Any mistakes made are my own, despite my meticulous effort. This video was narrated by Don Tread on me, sitting in today for Amanda B. Reckoned with, who's out with COVID or something or other. Just kidding. She's dedicated to her craft, and Foltz, the eyes of the trucker on this channel, finally gave her the day off. So, as before, this video was presented by Foltz at Outward Divergence on his channel, through the eyes of a trucker. We are all grateful for your time, support of our creative work and this channel. Speaking for everyone here, I hope to deliver educational trucking content as well as relevant opinion-based pieces moving forward. This is for everyone I've known or cared about, as we witness our country being steered into a very questionable direction. People need to wake up before we lose what's taken us 249 years to build. As we come up on 250, I remember the 200th anniversary very clearly. I remember the small desk piece that my mom bought me, a metal replica of the Liberty Bell that I placed on that desk in my room. It said 1776 to 1976 200-year anniversary. I used to assemble puzzles and models of sailing ships. A Rolls-Royce Phantom that debuted in 1925, and a scaled-down version of the Boeing B-52 Stratofortress, an American long-range subsonic jet-powered strategic bomber. I'm still in love with it. All of these above my electric train set, a city on my floor, with trees and buildings and army men, in my bedroom, in the days before cell phones. I was 10 years old. I wish I could step back in time. Things were simpler. Without cameras everywhere. Ever-expanding surveillance. How I miss it. We need to stand up, to stand together. We are all in this together, whether by birth or by choice. Whatever race, whatever creed, as in the Marines, no one is left behind. God, country, family. The guiding star through which wisdom illuminates the path forward. Let's get our country to 300 years. Its summary and soul in these words. By the blood of our veterans, all those who died before us, and the Constitution. If you haven't already, kindly subscribe. Thank you. God bless all of you and your families. Keep on trucking. Please find video 2 of this series. The script and video you've just seen are purely a product of my imagination, crafted for your entertainment. We all understand that, in reality, none of this is occurring. This is the United States of America, after all. Such things could never happen here. No need for concern or further attention. Nothing to see here. Move along, folks. Just as soon as you produce and hand over your papier. I hope you enjoyed this fictional piece, much like Orwell's 1984, which was only ever written in a spirit of entertainment, just to keep you amused. Contact information for California's various representatives. California Governor Gavin Newsom, Democrat. 202-624-5273, that's the Washington, D.C. office. 916-445-2841, Sacramento, California. The website is www.gavinnewsom@gov.k.gov. California Senator Alex Padilla, Democrat. 202-224-3553 in Washington, D.C. 916-448-2787 in Sacramento, California. You can reach out at https://www.padilla.senate.gov/contact/. California Senator Adam B. Schiff, Democrat. 202-224-3841 in Washington, D.C. 415-393-0707 in San Francisco, California. Office locations. San Francisco, 1 Post Street, Suite 2450, San Francisco, California, 94104. Call for appointment. Fresno, 2500 Tulare Street, Suite 4290, Fresno, California, 93721. Call for appointment. San Diego, new office opening soon, so call for updates. Burbank, new office opening soon, call for updates. Washington, D.C., Hart Senate Office Building number 112, Washington, D.C., 20510. Call for appointment. This office can assist Californians with thoughts, opinions, or meeting requests. Reach out to share your voice. Additional California Senator offices: Fresno, 2500 Tulare Street, Suite 5290, Fresno, California, 93721. San Francisco, 333 Bush Street, Suite 3225, San Francisco, California, 94104. Sacramento, 501 I Street, Suite 7-800, Sacramento, California, 95814, by appointment only, due to renovation. Los Angeles, 255 East Temple Street, Suite 1860, Los Angeles, California, 90012. San Diego, 600 B Street, Suite 2240, San Diego, California, 92101. Washington, D.C., 331 Hart Senate Office Building, Washington, D.C., 20510. California House of Representatives is currently made up of 43 Democrats and 9 Republicans, representing 52 districts out of 435 districts in the United States. Please do your own research to locate the representatives that are local to you. Again, please find video 2 of this series. This video is dedicated to Cowboy Damian Farrar, welding inspector and welder extraordinaire of Sinclair Oil Refinery, Rawlins, Wyoming. Dr. Benjamin James Yerger of Merritt Community College, Oakland, California. Grandpa and Grandma